Hey, everybody. Come really close to your speakers. This is Davy Vain from Vain, and you're listening to Nothing Shocking Podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Part 2 of Davy Vain.
Yeah, this is the conclusion of our two-part episode. We dive deep into the history of the band and touch on a few Vain albums. So, yep. Hey, let's get right to it, man.
All right, good night.
Good night. Back in, 1988, Vain was signed. The band showcased for many different labels. You guys decided to sign with Island Records. Can you take our listeners back to that formative time when you guys got signed and playing those showcases for other labels?
Oh, man, yeah, it was weird, man. Sometimes it was just like I remember the first time we did a big showcase, and it wasn't the first time, but we had one at the Whiskey. We never played there. And some people showed up and we could invite other people. It was kind of a private thing. And it was totally shitty because we didn't realize that the people there just could give a fuck about us. I kept saying, turn my monitors up. And the guy would just look at me like, fuck off or something. He didn't even care with the showcase. I think their friends were playing and they heard we were good and they just kind of fucked us. So that kind of sucked. Most of the time they went pretty well. We were never a band that choked. You know, that's one thing that I'll have to say, not to brag, but it's like, you know, I had some friends that had the opportunities and they just couldn't handle the pressure. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of pressure. It's one thing to play, and then it's another thing to be backstage and going, there's a guy there that can change your life. Now go play and be really good. You know what I mean? So, absolutely. So we always kind of did good, you know, and we did some showcases where we were, and there was just one person though, you know, it's like, where you just, like, we had this crazy lawyer that signed Aerosmith. He just passed away a year and a half ago. And we just had a bunch of memorials for him. He signed, like, Aerosmith, The Cars, Boston, Santana, all the crazy stories of the old music business, you know. And he was older when we had him already. So he kind of knew the inside outs of stuff. And, you know, we do showcases. Like one time we were in a recording studio doing some demos. He got us this demo deal at a really good studio so we could do better demos, which is some of the ones that have been floating around, you know, over the years. And so he called me, he goes, hey, I got this guy from MCA Records. I got him at the baseball game right now. I've got to fucking pretty much give him a hand job to come down to the fucking studio and see you guys play right now. So play all the best songs. And I go, oh yeah, okay, we only recorded 3. He goes, no, I mean really play like live. I go, Brian, it's a recording studio. You can't just play here. It's like, you can't put on a show. You have to be in the other side of the glass. He goes, no, he's got to be seeing the band. And I go, well, there's not like a P. And he goes, Davey, I'm a fucking attorney. I'm doing my job. You're in a whole fucking studio full of shit. Figure it out. I'm going to be there in a fucking hour with this guy before he fucking wants to take off. And I'm like, okay, cool. So all of a sudden I go, how do we do this? And the guy goes, well, you could sing through the playback speakers. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me try it. And I go, this sounds kind of weird. So we set up, this guy shows up with him. They get him a fucking steel chair, sit him down. He's just sitting in front of us. And we do like a couple of songs. And you can't really put on a full show or it looks ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to kind of play, but you can't just go, you can't look like an imbecile metal geek because it just doesn't look real. You know what I mean? Like, check out these jumps I'm going to do and shit, So at the end, then the guy, after song, you just hear one guy, oh, it was good. And we're like, thanks, man. Okay, it's the next song, And so we did a few of those. This is a kind of a side note. When I was playing with Steven Adler, you probably are familiar with that. We did that Project Road Crew with Steven Adler, right? The difference on that was hilarious because we had that sound stage we were playing and I was telling you about. So we did a lot of showcases with that band too, and all of them were like that. But they'd always have 1 or 2, 3 people. That was the difference, So when people came, and we sounded pretty fucking hot. I'm not, that in the sound, it was over 120 dBs in that rehearsal room. It's like a stage and everything. Our old sound man came in and watched us play a song, and he left the room to laugh because it was so loud. He didn't want to see us. He didn't want us to see him laugh and think we were doing something. So anyway, we do a showcase there, and at the end of the showcase, instead of us just going, thanks a lot for coming, and the guy's going like that, Steve would always go, so what'd you guys think? If you guys were smart, you'd sign us right now. Like the band I was just in sold like 30 million records, and they sold hundreds of thousands of records. It should have been like way bigger, man. They're like my favorite band. And then we had one new guy named Sean Orton. He goes, and the little fellow over here, he's just a lucky guy, but he's foxy and plays good. And they just kind of didn't even know what to say. And I always loved that. I go, oh, this is so great. But they'd be like, So it's funny. So then when we did another showcase for a record company, Epic, and our lawyer really wanted us to get on Epic because according to him, they were the easiest band to fuck over for massive amounts of money. And I'm like, well, I don't care about that. He goes, yeah, but I do. And so anyway, and they really liked us a lot. And so we did a big showcase for them, and that was really weird because they brought all these people and even their wives and shit, like some of the people that worked for the company. And at that time, everybody was looking for the next, it was before Guns N' Roses had really exploded yet.
Yeah.
They were still kind of like Poison's the hot band, and they wore makeup, and we were still pretty glammy then, you know what I mean? So they just the record companies didn't look like, let's find a new thing. They just think, let's find a thing like them. They sell 2 million records, you know what I mean? Like, we'll get our version of that is how they sell the music business worked. So anyway, and even though we didn't think we were anything like that, so we did the showcase at this place called The Scream in Los Angeles, and backstage, they're hanging out with us, the wives of these guys, and they're helping tease our hair and shit. And we're like, oh, this is going really well. I haven't even played, and they already like us. And this one video guy goes, oh, I did the Michael Jackson videos with you guys, and the way you guys look, that would be amazing, and blah, blah, blah. We're like, okay, we better go play good now, right? So we went out, and we completely kicked ass, right? So we thought, everybody loved us, and they brought some producers and shit. I mean, they're really corporate. They bring, like, everybody just to make sure, you know what I mean? Mm. So Brian, our lawyer, calls us the next day and goes, oh, my God, you guys hit a fucking home run. Everybody loved you. We're like, oh, fuck, thank God. We're finally going to fucking get a record deal, It's funny now because as you get older, the time doesn't seem as long. Like 2 or 3 years doesn't seem like an epic amount of time. Right. You know what I mean? At least I don't know how you guys feel. But back then, we'd only been a band for like a year and a half or something. We're like, we're never going to get signed. You know what I mean? So anyway. So I thought, oh, this is awesome. We're finally, going to get a deal. And the guy's name is Snake. Yeah, it was the Epic main guy, and I'd always have to call him. So I'd have to go to the manager's office, of course, no cell phones. And he talks to me. He goes, oh, my God, everybody loved the show and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, great. And he goes, but And he goes, we bought some producer stuff. And they said, your guys playing it. You guys some really good players, like, you know, your drummer and, you know, people that could really do it in the studio too. And our guitar players will go, yeah, I know. We're like into being good musicians and stuff too, you know. And like, that's awesome. I'm glad you guys dug it and stuff like that. And he goes, and you know what, man? I kept thinking that, you know, you guys as a Poison kind of a cool, you know, hip thing, you know, but with your own thing. And he goes, but all these producers goes, these guys are kind of more like a Def Leppard with they've got some talented players and stuff. And you know what the difference between that Poison and Def Leppard is? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, quite a bit, you know, thinking, you know, it's like, you know, they're completely two different bands. I didn't want to explain anything too, because Brian's like, never tell them anything. Just go, yeah, whatever, you know? So, and he goes, the difference is that Def Leppard sold 10 million records and Poison sold 2 million records. Isn't that great? And I go, that's fantastic. So I'm glad you got us in that category. Anyway, what's next? You know? And then he's like, well, you know how Def Leppard did that? And I'm like, no, yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, they're really good and they started young. And he goes, no, he goes, they had Mutt Lange that co-wrote all these hit songs. They're still great and all this. And then right away, I'm like, oh, fuck, this sucks, you know? So then it's like, so if we do that with you guys, it's just going to be so massive. And, you know, I didn't want to say, oh, fuck you, no way. But I was thinking that because we really were, we were really convinced of being our own thing and, you know, being artists, you know what I mean? And wanting to do. So I kind of went, okay, you know, but I didn't want to be negative either because I thought, well, what if it's a song and I like it? Or, you know what I mean? You never know, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I go, okay, that sounds all right. You know, let me know, you know? So all of a sudden he goes, okay, great. So I had all these meetings that I had to do, and I just do it by myself. Like my manager wouldn't even be on the phone or anything, you know, because they're in LA and we're in San Francisco. So then they go, okay, great. He goes, hey, I got this songwriter. He wrote like 5 number, you know, top 10 hit. I can't even remember what the fucking guy's name was or what the songs were, you know. And it's like, and they weren't like, you know, songs that I went, oh, isn't that the song from, you know, Bon Jovi or something, you know, or whatever. It was some other shit I never heard of. And then I'm like, okay, great. He goes, we got your new demo of the song No Respect. And I go, okay, yeah, great. Yeah, we just did that. And he goes, he's going to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. So I get on the phone and the guy's all, Davey, how you doing, Dave? What's up, man? What's up? And all this stuff. He goes, I just listened to that song, No Respect. I love that song, man. Great writing, man. You're a good writer and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, thanks a lot. And he goes, that subject matter's so cool. And you did a different twist on it. I never heard. That's really important, man. And I go, great, thanks. And he goes, but I got to tell you the bad news now. And I go, what's that? He goes, you blew it on the chorus, man. You blew it on the chorus. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, you should have gone major. If you would have gone major in the chorus, you would have had a hit. Now you got a really good song with great lyrics. Then major, you had a hit. Instead of going to bloody blah, go to bloody blah, and that'll be major, and then there's a hit. He goes, that one's free, Davey. The next one's going to cost you. And I'm like, okay, cool, man, I'll try it. And he's like, yeah. Then he goes, and then I've got some other songs that I definitely want you guys to check out. You know, Snake and me are really tight, and all that. Snake is somebody, hey, that's great, man. Why don't you go do that? And I'm like, okay, cool. Thanks a lot, Snake. And I thought, okay, whatever, you know. So then I told my manager, what did he say? And I got to tell him. And he goes, oh, okay, well, you're going to try it? I go, yeah, I'll go try it, you know. And then, you know, the lawyer, I call my lawyer, and what did he say? And he goes, God damn it, just do whatever the fuck they want, Dave. I'm telling you, I can fuck these guys in the ass for like $50K just for some fucking fun money. He goes, they're going to sell more records than anybody. Epic Records and CBS Records, they rip you off more than anybody else. But he goes, but they sell more records, so it all balances out. So he was hilarious, you know. So and I'm just laughing. He kind of made the whole thing fun and not seem so like heavy. But it was getting kind of heavy because you have the feeling when you're in the streets, like eating a burrito a day, having your own manager surviving, you know, choosing that kind of life, you do once in a while a little doubt creeps in, like, you know, if we don't do this, like, what are we going to do? What am I going to do? Like, I want to do this, but it's not a given that you just get to do this, you know, forever. You know, we have a thing going now, but who knows, you know? So anyway, so we go to practice. I didn't even try it on a guitar or anything. I just went to the practice and I go, hey, I just talked to Snake. I explained it to the band and they're like, oh, and then And most of the guys in the band were, when are they going to come up and get us burgers again? They call them epic burgers, record burgers. And I go, yeah, probably, hopefully. But anyway, they want us to try this. So anyway, let's just do the whole song and go into it, and then we'll check it out then. So go to Blah, Blah. I can't even remember what it was, And everybody goes, okay, great. So we start the song, ding, 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 just like the record. We didn't change anything for the studio. And then, and go into, always want what we can't have, just one more night. Then the chorus kicks in after 2 chords where I'm going, go ahead and use, and everybody's waiting to do that, no respect. But all of a sudden, when the key changed to major, it made it sound almost kind of like La Bamba or something. You know what I mean? It was like, la, 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 you know what I mean? And it was like instantly everybody that was standing drops to the floor laughing and stops playing. So we're like, oh my God, we thought it was like comedy, right? And then we're like, oh shit. So then we waited like another week. He sent me like a bag of cassettes. I'm listening to it. Every song was terrible. They were all just completely shitty. I mean, I was trying to have an open mind. I would have loved to put a cassette in and heard like a really cool song that I could have made rock or something, like, you know what I mean? Or I wasn't just going, I've got to be the writer. I was wanted a record deal, but I didn't want to play shitty songs, because a lot of bands have co-written and stuff, and I sometimes thought I'm the only writer, and am I really good? Or you never know, you haven't done anything yet. Just because you want to do it doesn't mean people are going to dig it or whatever, So, but I knew that our fans liked it, that we had in our club that showed up to sold out shows and stuff, because we could test them on them and they would just go crazy on certain songs. So anyway, we finally go, okay, we've had it with this fucking guy, and then I'm just going to tell him, and then Brian goes, you got to tell him that. You got to tell him it's your decision, but I think you guys should try it a little longer and all this shit. I go, no, man, we can't go on like this. This is not happening. So I call the guy up and I go, listen, man, I can't do these. We tried. The songs we don't like any of them. He goes, I think you're making a mistake. We could get the right things and all this stuff. And then I go, listen, man. And I told my manager, and she was pretty poor too. It wasn't like she was like some rich. She was young, she was our age, but she just had this real great pizzazz of helping a band, giving us a better outlook. She was kind of a savant. So, and she goes, okay, go ahead and tell them that, they don't know what they're fucking doing. And I go, okay. So I got on the phone. I go, hey, we really appreciate everything. But I go, we have stuff in our record collections like Judas Priest and AC/DC and Aerosmith and, just Kiss Alive, and I'm just naming all these bands, and I'm just going, like, we're experts at this shit. This is we spend our whole lives doing this shit. We're fans. We're experts on this shit. And the stuff you're sending us just isn't good, and we would never do that in a million years. And he's like, oh, experts? Well, I think we're experts too. We're like Epic Records and all this shit. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm sure you are, but this is like, we're like living in the streets, man. We're picking that up. You know what I mean? We're not, suburban kids anymore. You know what I mean? We've been here for a couple of years, like in the city now, we're growing up, and we want to do our own thing, and so, I mean, I don't think you can help us. I just kept saying, we're experts on rock, okay? and then he's like, okay. And he goes, okay, well, good luck with that. Just hung up on me. That was it, And that wasn't the first time we had, who's the guy, what's the producer's name that did The Runaways? Kim Fowley. Yeah, when we were still living in our town, he heard our tape and really wanted to work with us, our very first demo, because I guess he thought there was something cool there, and that was really flattering. But then he wanted, but he was a complete, crazy person that's a ripoff at that time, too. So he called us, and I remember he told me, then I said, hey, we can't do this right now, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, hey, you know what? Well, then fuck you, and good luck with your 707 area code, and hung up on me. Like he got us for having a bad area code that wasn't LA. So that was funny. So anyway, after that, then we just had to go back to kind of square one, because we'd been kind of courting. It's like a chick you took on a million dates, and you finally, she broke up with you before you could fuck her or whatever. So then the guy from Island Records started showing up, and he was a young guy with long hair, and he just kept coming to the shows and just, getting into saying the right stuff, getting into the music, but he he had his own label at a time called Pink Dust or something like that, and signed all these Scandinavian shit way before that was hip. I mean, he tried to sign Alice in Chains and Nirvana, before, like, the first time he played Seattle, we played with Alice in Chains because he was trying to get something going with them, and he thought they were cool, So it was like, he was just, said the right stuff, but he didn't have the power to sign us right away. Like, he couldn't do it. He had to go to his boss, like a lot of the A&R guys. So he started coming around, and he'd call me and, just go, hey, man, I can't even sleep tonight. The new song, 1,000 Degrees, I just love it so much, man. It's so dreamy, and it just makes me hard to go to sleep. I just have it in my head. I love that song. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And he would just talk about the songs and stuff that meant something, because it's not really the record business, it's the music business, the song business. You know what I mean? Right. Every band has the songs. That's what we love too, and if they have the power to perform them and move people with them, that's great, but it's still, they need those vehicles that sound like just them, you know what I mean? So it's like, and we were kind of getting that, and so I was digging that, and I was great. And so he would go backstage to the show. One time we had CBS come, and they did the same thing. They were signing bands and really producing them and getting teams of producers and even players to fill in, some of the records they were doing. But they were cool guys. But they came with a whole bunch of people one time at one of our shows at the Stone, and then they were backstage, and he was backstage hanging out, but they didn't even realize he was from a different record company, because he just looked like one of the dudes, because he had long hair and just looked like he was like, in his 20s, you know what I mean? So they're just talking in front of them about, oh yeah, John, what was that one thing you guys did? Oh yeah, you did this thing that would be such a great production trick. And they're talking like that, and they were just talking really lame, like not, like a bunch of people we would hang out, listen to records with or whatever, And then when they left, he, of course, used his, spy technique, because he was getting nervous because he really wanted us, and he was scared we were going to sign with somebody else. He'd go, God, you don't want to make a record with them, do you? And he'd make it like that. You're going to make a record. That's what you're going to do. You're not going to get signed. You're going to make a record. A record is something forever. It's a record, you know what I mean? It's an important thing to all of us. Like, and you're going to get to do that, and you want to do it with them because they're going to be involved in that record. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's a piece of art that lasts forever. And with Island Records at the time, even though they were kind of really on the down slope, they gave you complete artistic control of your record, because they were signing people when they first started. People thought reggae was like a joke that you just, wasn't a commercial thing, you know what I mean? And so he let those people just do whatever they wanted, and then what they did was incredible, So anyway, finally we got it going. It's funny because the same lawyer, Brian Rohan, we just were talking about this at the little get together we had with different stories he did. He kept coming to shows, and our lawyer called the guy and he goes, listen, man, Steve, I know you love the band. He goes, but it's just like when you were a kid. You got to stop coming around now. You got to stop coming around. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm checking him out. And he goes, I know, Steve, but when you were a little kid and you went to the store with your parents and there was toys you wanted to play with, he goes, you wanted to play with a Major Matt Mason. You wanted to run around and I'm in space and stuff. He goes, and you had to beg mommy for the money to get the toy, right? Then you got the toy, you could play with it. It's the same thing now. I've got the toys you want to play with. Go to daddy, your boss, and get the money, and I don't give a shit what you do. You can go on the tour bus and run around in your boxer shorts. Fuck it. You can play with them. Do whatever you want. And he was just this fucking funny as shit dude, right? So eventually that's how it happened. So, but it was such a great way to get signed because all we talked about was the songs, you know what I mean? And so we finally, and it's funny because 1,000 Degrees was the song that everybody at the record company loved so much. So then the bosses of the company got involved and everybody got involved. And then we go, okay. And we knew we had to record soon, So because we knew that somehow it felt like the clock was ticking, you know what I mean? So we didn't even sign the full record deal till we were doing the record. So then we were, a couple of the producers we had in mind were busy. So then they sent us this tape of this guy, Paul Norfield, who had done called the Queensryche, but he was an engineer. He'd never done a production. But in some ways, I thought that was cool because they'd still let me have some control of keeping it. My vision was not to make it too big and overproduced to make it sound, I wanted to sound like a band playing more. I didn't mind the big 80s drums and stuff because I thought that sounded cool. You know what I mean? But I didn't want to have like, just a zillion billion, like Bon Jovi or something at the maximum hit level they were at or something. You know what I mean? Or even Def Leppard, Pyromania seemed like much to me or something like that for your first record or something. You know what I mean? I mean, like a lot of people did that and were successful, and maybe I wasn't right, but that's how I really felt. And that's how the other guys in the band really felt. And some of the guys like Danny and stuff really like Motorhead, and we didn't even really listen to the music of the 80s that much ourselves. You know what I mean? Even though we were an 80s band, we listened to more 70s stuff and early 80s stuff and Iron Maiden and crap like that too, and Aerosmith. So anyway, so they said, okay, this is the guy, he's pretty cool. And I go, well, let me talk to him, So I called him and I said, hey, listen, man, your stuff's so good, but it might be kind of slick, and he's like, oh, I can do anything, because that's, with Rush, we have, that we do it like that. And Queensryche, that's the producer. And I go, because I want to make like a raw rock and roll kind of record, but still, big and rocking, and he's like, oh yeah, no, I love it. I like the songs and stuff. They play me the songs. I'm like, okay, well, I go, let's say we use you. And I just use this as an example, even though in my mind, I didn't even remember what it exactly sounded like. But I go, okay, well, let's do this. If we're doing the record, if you can let me be the assistant producer just so I could have some say here and there. And he goes, oh, well, that's fine. I don't mind. I want you to have say, And I'm like, okay, great. And I go, and let's say we're doing some songs and I go, hey, you know what? Let's put on the Sex Pistols, never mind the Bullocks, and just listen to it. And if we just sound like it's really just not even in that ballpark of rock and roll as raw element, then we're just really off base. He goes, oh yeah, that's fun, let's do it. You know what I mean? So I thought, this guy's totally mellow, and he can do anything. He's like talented enough to make stuff sound super good too, instead of a guy that sounds just like the Sex Pistols. Hey, can we get it above the Sex Pistols now? I don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? So we got so then all of a sudden everything went like, he made an opening so we could go right to the studio, but he didn't want to come to us. He wanted us to come all the way to Morin Heights, Canada, and live at the studio. And it's the same studio you see in the Tom Sawyer videos and stuff, So we flew all the way there. We got the record company. It was first they made me fly all the way to New York, and they told me they wanted to have a meeting with me, and they told me that they wanted to make sure that I didn't do an overproduced record, which was really funny because I didn't want anyone. He goes, okay, we don't want you to go in the studio and sound like the biggest band in the world. We already have the biggest band in the world. They're called U2, and they're the biggest band in the world because they've been doing this for 10 years, and they have 10 albums, and their first albums were just real music, and they have their fans that stayed forever, and that's how we want you guys to sound like the guys that we discovered, a bunch of broke, corny guys that just live for rock and roll, and and just want to fuck chicks and play rock music. That's what people want to hear out of their first band when you're young. And he goes, then he looked at me, he goes, and guess what? You too can't make that record anymore, but you still can because you were that guy. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I go, okay, everybody's on board and we're going. I go back to San Francisco, and then I go, man, that was a long flight to hear that pep talk, but it's still funny, I thought, you know what I mean? So, and I told everybody and everybody's like, that sounds great. That's what we want to do. We get to make the record we want, So all of a sudden we're getting ready to go, and I hadn't heard from anybody. And I thought, okay, aren't they going to get some kind of instructions? I've never made a major record. The thing was going to be, like a fucking expensive endeavor, sending 5 guys all the way to a different country, 3,000 miles away, living there in some super expensive studio. You'd think they'd call me and go, okay, this is what needs to be done or whatever. And finally I go, hey, maybe I should call the A&R guy. We're leaving like in 2 days. No one said anything. And my manager goes, yeah, if you want to. And she was just laughing. So I call him and I go, hey, what's going on, man? I mean, we're going to the studio. I haven't heard from anybody except that talk I had a couple weeks ago. And he goes, well, just go make your record. It's your record. And I go, what do you mean? And he's just like, yeah, you go make your record. You know how to do that. Just go. You're just going to have a lot more help now than you did in your demos. Just go make your record with your songs. And I'm like, okay, well, anything else? He goes, well, 1,000 Degrees is going to be on there, right? And he mentioned a couple other songs. You're going to use those songs, right? And I go, oh, yeah, they're going to be on there for sure. He goes, okay, great. All right, then do whatever you want. He goes, I'll be out there in a while. And I go, when are you coming? He goes, I don't know. While I'll see you guys. I'll fly out there after you guys record some shit. And I'm like, okay. And I thought, so then we just flew there, and we ended up signing the record deal while we're in the studio. Like a couple weeks later, we just had like some kind of deal memo, and we got in the country, and then we did pre-production with Paul, and he ended up being the coolest guy in the world. And he was just like a genius at recording shit, you know. And he's just like, so it was like the whole experience was so great, even though they kind of tricked us, because I thought that's going to be pretty boring up there in the middle of nowhere. But every time I'd call the studio, French chicks would answer the phone and go, the studio, because Warren Heights is the French Canadians, you know. And then when I talked to Paul, I go, wow, who's that? There sounds like there's some pretty hot chicks there. He goes, oh, the French chicks are so beautiful here in Montreal. And I'm like, oh, right. And I was thinking, man, we're going to have so much fun, you guys. We're going to do a record. We're going to have all these exotic French Canadian women and shit, you know. Of course, we got there. It's the middle of fucking nowhere. There's nobody anywhere. It's like snowing. You're in this big house, and you're just in the studio. It's all glass, like the Tom Sawyer Rush video. It's that, and it's really cool, but there's just nothing there. I mean, that record is a horny fucking sounding record. and so we get there, and you know, we pulled the car over before I go, pull the car before we all go, where's the studio? And the driver goes, it's right around the corner. And like, we're in the woods practically, you know, and I could pull the car over, and we all got together in a little huddle. And I go, dude, let's not finish the record. Let's go make it. Let's not think of finishing. Let's just get into every moment, no matter what happens. We're just a bunch of kids from Santa Rosa, and we're just like going to go make a major record now. No matter what happens, we get to do this. And we all got so stoked up and just hugged each other and just went in there like a little sports team, you know. And then Paul was standing out there with he wore these flight jumpsuits, and then the whole place was massive platinum records everywhere that had been done there, and they were just like, oh my god, this is so cool. And he set the whole thing up so that we could just play live in the studio and never tore any drums or anything down. A lot of times you tear the drums down. So, I mean, during the thing, one time we finally got to go out a couple times to some little bar, and there was a band playing, and we had most of the record done. We were so jacked to get on stage, and we played Icy, and then we jumped off stage, and I go, man, that was fun. And I go, what are we going to do tomorrow, Paul? And he goes, we're going to do Icy. And I go, what do you mean? We already recorded Icy like a week ago. And he goes, yeah, but he goes, I want the Icy you just did. I didn't know you had a better one in you. And I go, okay. So the next day we went in and just like off the floor, boom. And he goes, that's the one from last night. It's done, you know? So if it would have been in any other recording project, the drums would have already been striked and we'd be in a whole other mode, you know what I mean? But it was just like, so we just had everything ready to play at any time. So, and one time I go, hey, should we put the Sex Pistols on? And then I put it on. He goes, I think we beat them. So it's cool. And then every night after the session, we just hang out and talk for hours, him and me, about it. And he was just a genius, you know.
Oh, so cool.
And he was really cool. I go, you know, I don't want these big vocals. Let's keep them kind of, you know, and let's just, and everything, all the visions of how I thought about it, he really was just on board and just so into it, just loving the fact of what we had. And the A&R guy came out. The only thing he didn't like is he loved everything. The only thing he didn't like was No Respects intro. Boom, boom, boom. And I go, I don't know. I keep thinking about you. And, you know, I know you're no good for me. You know what I mean? And we made it kind of clumsy too, like, you know what I mean? And he goes, I don't like that you're doing that. And I go, really? And he goes, yeah, I don't know, it just sounds kind of wimpy or something. Or yeah, but then it sounds so heavy then. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. And then we kind of had a little bit of, that was the only time we had any kind of thing against it. So then he had to go do something at a meeting or something on the phone. So then we go, hey, why don't I record another really fucked up one, and then we'll have Paul record one. So I did one where I was like, oh no, I keep thinking about you, baby. You know what I mean? And just fucking around. And then Paul recorded one, and his voice sounded exactly like Dudley Moore. So it was all boom, 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 boom. And then all of a sudden you go, I don't know why I keep thinking about you when I know you're absolutely no good for me. You know what? I think you're a dirty cow. It's like a London expression. And so then he came in like, hey, we fixed it. It's all good now. And he goes, okay, can I hear it? And I go, yeah, yeah. And I go, he's got to be an A&R guy. He's got to say something. If this is the only thing he doesn't like, who gives a shit? So I played him my fucked up when he goes, okay, that's funny. All right. And I go, no, this is the real one now. And then Paul came on and did his, that he was laughing so hard that I go, yeah, let's play mine one more time. He goes, okay, you can keep it. Fuck it. So that was pretty funny.
Absolutely.
And another thing, it was I was actually, and one of my first real guitars was this red one pickup Les Paul I had, and I had to do a solo, and it was just me and Paul, and we had gotten really close there, hanging out and just, talking about music and recording and everything. And I was like, I wanted to do it in the room with my amp, but everybody else wasn't there for that, so it was just me and him. And I had to do my first time I played guitar, and it was for the very end solo on Without You, when it goes to the final part, when it goes to that, just the very end solo, then it fades. So I'm sitting there, and it's all dark in there, and I can look out and see stars. I mean, it's the only studio where you can look outside. It's so cool. It was just frozen ice. And then I had my guitar, and I go, this guitar I had before I could play even good. When I first got that guitar, it was a 69, and I played a couple chords on it, and the guitar, I could tell the guitar going, oh, shit, this is going to be a long haul. You know what I mean? Because I got it from somebody really good. And I could tell the guitar thought, oh, man, this sucks. So... And I thought, okay, and I was just sitting back there going, I'm actually going to do a guitar solo right now on a major record. And I was just so stoked. And I was just looking at the guitar, and I go, I've had this guitar, and I wrote almost all the songs on this guitar on this record. And I was just like, and I actually got myself choked up because my mom used to get all emotional about music. And when the Andrews sisters were singing, they'd be crying. And she goes, look at that's how music's all about. It's pure emotion. And I was all like, I got to get in the soul. It's going to be just like that. And all of a sudden I started kind of having a couple of tears, and all of a sudden I was all, okay. And then Paul's on the talkback, and he goes, hey, what's up? You there? And I go, yeah, because I had headphones on, and he's all the way across him. He could barely see me in the dark. He goes, are you crying? And I go, I'm sorry, man. I just got kind of choked up because it's my soul on a record. He goes, that's fucking brilliant. I'm recording right now. I was crying on here. And then all of a sudden I hear the track fucking fire up. I'm like, oh, shit. There you go. So to him, he thought that was so great because he was used to working with all these veteran, gaudy musicians that were like, oh, I'm a professional musician, you know what I mean? So he would, so it was a really cool experience that I've never, we had other people that we worked with after that, but it was never like that,
Oh, so cool.
Yeah,
and it's funny too, because 1,000 Degrees was the most time spent on mixing it too, because that was the song that the record company liked so much as far as a single kind of thing too. And Beat the Bullet, no one had talked about it at all. In fact, that was one of the last songs I wrote. And when I first brought it into the band, they liked it, but they didn't like when it goes, 1 and 1 is 2, the part that goes right before the get down on my knees, that little B section. They're going, it's kind of poppy, really. And that was the only song that at first reaction, everybody was like, I don't know about that part. And I go, yeah, but I don't know. It's cool because it goes to the next part. And usually they were always digging everything. So that was kind of a song this is kind of a rocker track. We didn't really think this song's really going to make people go crazy or whatever, So we spent all this time mixing 1,000 Degrees, and I remember Paul going, okay, I really like the take where you just go degrees, or you say degrees, and that I did a couple takes. Most of the ones I did them all just live off the floor. So, and Beat the Bullet was barely, just like that too. So we're listening, when we came to mix that one, he goes, okay, every song has a certain energy, and you got to turn the, blah, blah, and that's how you mix. You don't just go build it like a house and go great. And so we did all the ones that were supposed to be hits. And then he goes, okay, Beat the Bullet. And that one just came up, and they're all sounding pretty good because they're all recorded there, And then he goes, let me see, what do we do to this one? He just took the guitars, and he goes, and he turned them up a little bit, both left, and Danny and Jamie at that time, Delon, he turned them up, and then he goes, okay, we're done with that one, print it. You know what I mean? And so it was just a weird coincidence that ended up being the first song, which was actually kind of, at that time, James Scott was really the main lead guitar player of Vain. It was all at the start of Vain in all the leads, and Danny was still getting into playing leads. And so it was kind of our first video for James Scott not to play the leads, most of the songs was a little weird, but he took it like a champ, but it was still a little strange, you know what I mean?
Very much so.
Because the dynamics of the band, it was almost like, oh, you can play on this one. This is the, kind of a raunchy track. But it ended up being the song we're the most known for now, So it's funny how stuff works out like that.
Oh,
so cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Davey, we're out of our allotted time for this evening. We have enough.
That's cool. I figured I'd just give you more shit, and you're probably going to edit stuff or whatever, too. Right?
Oh, well, we have so much great content here. We're thinking about making it a part 1 and part 2. We're kind of like doing sign language to each other during this, but it's been fantastic. Last question we'll ask you here. The mystery of rock and roll. It's no longer a thing with the dawning of the internet and social media. But for you, the musician and the fan, what do you like? Do you like this new age of accessibility? If we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be doing this with you tonight. But what do you like better, the mystique and mystery, or this new age of accessibility?
I like it now, but there's some things I'm jealous about now, because when I was sitting around trying to learn licks off a record or something like that, it would have been great to have a teacher online, just to learn stuff, because I was a very curious kid. And I think I would have loved that. I used to look at encyclopedias because we didn't have them at my house because we were kind of poor. And my cousin had them, and I go, wow, there's everything in there. Thought it was so cool. So that I'm kind of jealous of, because I remember I tried to find a guitar teacher to show me stuff, and they couldn't figure out the fucking shit I wanted to listen to. You know what I mean? So, and so that I think's cool. But the fact that, the musicians don't make money, unless there's some smash pop thing, you know what I mean? It's like you don't get the right royalties for the music's been devalued. It's the live shows are worth a lot, but if you're just a musician and let's say your song gets 1 million plays, it's hardly anything. If you got 1 million plays on the radio, you could live off of that for a while, you know what I mean? It's like, so that I don't like. And the mystique thing, I'm not. That's the only thing I'm jealous of, the educational part of it, not the access to the music, because there was something so fun about searching for it, like I was talking about before, and discovering it, or meeting a friend that turned you onto a record and actually having to buy it and play it, I even, not that it's something, but Get Your Wings album, I just had to pocket that because I was too broke to get one, and I just snuck out with it, you know what I mean? But so I felt kind of guilty, but I met Steven Tyler and I told him, and he goes, that's fine, I still got paid, don't worry. And then he goes, but I'll tell you the most important thing about that album. And I go, what's that? And I was just in awe that I got to meet him. He goes, if you look at the tie I'm wearing on the cover, that was my stash. The band didn't even know that. It's just full of drugs. So I thought it was so funny that it was on an album cover. Yeah, so that's the thing, that I don't know what everybody else has said about that, but it's fun to have the accessibility and listen to all this different stuff. But there was I didn't know what Jimmy Page sounded like. You know what I mean? I just thought it was like, when I listened to those records, it was just wow, that's just, you just have to read an interview or something. And it was just so, we used to go to the late night movies and watch Sgt. Pepper's, even though it sucked, and sit through the whole thing just to see the one clip of Aerosmith doing Come Together, you know what I mean?
Yep.
At the midnight movies and stuff like that. So it was like, or Don Kirshner's rock concert, stuff like that. It was just so, there was so much power to it. But I guess the kids now, watch Dua Lipa. To me, that seems, I like some of that stuff melodically and performance-wise and stuff, but it seems like it's more, the bigger things are more dance music. And then there's a lot of the new rock stuff that, have a big following and stuff too. But,
for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not regretting the way it went. And especially that you could play clubs and get found, and, that kind of system of it could kind of, and another thing that I think would be really tough is you didn't really know if you sucked. Maybe your friend would tell you, yeah, it wasn't very good or whatever. Now, I've worked with artists, and they're looking at everything everybody said, and it really affects them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And they all of a sudden, I've made records with people, and at the end, they're just like, I don't know if I like my songs now. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because somebody said something about something, they put a clip or something, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's the kind of feedback you never heard. You'd hear about a review, but luckily we got pretty good reviews always. They were actually pretty stellar, to be honest with you, except the one, we had one really bad review, and that's the one that was our favorite one, when No Respect came out. And the opening line was, this group of musical bozos must really be vain if they think they're going to get any respect from this debut. And that was how the review started. So we'd, for a long time, we'd go, hey, musical bozo, will you hand me the tuner? So, but, that's the only thing you'd hear. But, you kind of get more audience reaction. You could kind of build yourself slow, but you weren't getting all this instant stuff like, or people filming the shows. Like, God, it must be terrible on your first shows and stuff,
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well,
so there's a lot of negative stuff too.
Yeah, we're out of our allotted time tonight. Is there anything that we left off that you would like to plug or promote?
No, just that we're going to have probably the album will soon be out for pre-order at davyvain.com. So, but it's not quite out yet. We're probably going to have like a single come out in like October. Or a little bit before, and then the record will be ready for people to check out then.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you so much. This is how things are going to work out. We're about 3.5 weeks out from our episodes, but once this is ready to go, Jeff, the editing wizard over here, will get this all cleaned up, and it looks like we're going to do a part 1 and part 2. We're going to make this a 2-part episode.
Yeah, you know what? The only reason I did the answer so long because I felt kind of sick all day today, and I thought I was going to ask you if I could only do a half hour. It was fun talking to you guys because I start remembering the stuff, and then I kind of go back. But I just thought, I didn't mean to kind of ramble on, but I figured if I just gave you a lot, you could, figure out what you liked or whatever.
Yeah. Well, this is great. We can get 2 episodes, a 2-for-1 special here, man.
And we're also playing the Whiskey A Go-Go September 1st in Los Angeles.
Thank you so much. It was fantastic.
Oh, no worries, guys. It was great talking to you.
I'll be in touch.
Sorry I kept canceling so much.
Oh, no. It's been a true honor. So I'll be in touch with you in about 3.5-4 weeks. Sound good?
Okay, sounds good, man.
Take care of yourself. Thank you.
See you.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. They roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The Sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.